Welcome to the Cornbread and Kool-Aid podcast. My name is Demetrius. This podcast is for fans of Detroit Lions football, fans of football in general, Detroit sports in general. If you like the podcast, I appreciate it. Appreciate you joining and listening. Please hit whatever you hit, subscribes, hearts, likes. If you agree with one of my takes, that's great. You can let me know in the comments section. If it's good, I might mention it. If you say something bad or stupid, I will probably still mention it, but you might not like what I say. We always start acknowledging the super producer extraordinaire, the Godfather Mike Ward. We are in week 16, of the 2024 NFL season. The Lions are in Chicago. Were in Chicago, probably on their way home. No, they're still here. In Chicago to play the Bears. Lions come in 12-2 after their second loss of the season to the Buffalo Bills. There was, I feel like I want to use the word consternation. It might be a little overkill, but there was some heartburn about the loss, and I'll probably touch on some of that a little bit. But at the end of the day, coming in here, the Lions were the better team. There's just no doubt, for a lot of reasons. But the concern with the Lions has been probably for weeks now, injuries. And the injuries are real, and they hurt, and they're bothering us, and all that's true. But there's some things about this team you have to know, right? And I titled this podcast, "The Lions Don't Do Losing Streaks." And that is because since middle of 22, well over 2 years of football, they haven't lost back-to-back games, right? And that's important. So today I'm going to do some big picture stuff. I'm going to talk about the game. Midway through the game, I was like, what am I going to talk about? Because there's a case to be made that it was kind of a boring game. When I always use the same analogy, if you're watching a game and you didn't know the team names and you didn't know the jersey colors, and I'm going to admit right up front, Minnesota, Seattle is a big deal. And if you see me peeking, that's what's happening. Just acknowledging up front. I'm breaking all podcast protocol. And just for the record, Minnesota, Seattle is on a TV right there. And so if you see me peeking, that's what that is. But that's where we are now, right? For the Lions, you should go out. You should go out to Chicago and beat a better team. Beat them soundly. If you're watching the game and there's no jerseys and there's no names, and you're just watching the game, you generally can tell that team is better than that team. Maybe the lesser team commits penalties or turnovers, but that's what bad teams do. That's why they're bad teams. Good teams don't do that. That's why they're good teams. That's why they win more games. None of it's super complicated, but I try and watch games sometimes in that way. And today was just one team that happens to be uber efficient, super talented on offense, kind of executed. I think they scored on their first 6 possessions, maybe 7 of 9 or something like that. There was 1 punt and 1 fourth down. If the Lions play like they played today, there aren't that many teams. I still feel good about it. I ended last week's podcast with, I'm all right. I'm okay. So big picture, talk about the game, then we'll do our 3 questions. So big picture is simple. Our team is 13-2. It's the most wins they ever had in a season, right? And I have to do the PSA that my brother, because he's already reminded me, Kenny said their Lions were going to be 15-2. He did. It's in the archives on a very, very early podcast. He makes sure I say that every week that he said 15-2. So there, Kenny, it's over. Everybody knows you called this. So they're 13-2 now. Like I said, they haven't lost back-to-back games in 2 years since the middle of 2022. And I want to say an 8-2 stretch at the end last year and this year. And my numbers are probably right. I think the Lions are 35-10 in a 45-game stretch. So if you think about that, no matter how you form your opinions, and there's a spectrum, all of them. There's SOL, Lions will never win if the Ford's on the team guy who will say to you that the Lions are the team he grew up watching, the team where Orlovsky ran out the back of the end zone, the team where they picked up the flag in Dallas. He will never get over that. For him, that's who the Lions are. That's who the Lions will always be. He will never get past that, right? Other people were last week. Buffalo, that's who they are. They can't win a Super Bowl. That's who they are. One data point, recency bias. The last game is who they are. And there is no right or wrong. There are people who form their opinions differently. I happen to be somewhere in the middle. So I decided to look at roughly 2.5 seasons, 45 games. And they're 35-10. That's who I think they are. That's who I think they are. And if you take out the worst, which was probably last year in Baltimore, maybe 2 years ago in Carolina, and take out the best, pick Tennessee, Dallas, Jacksonville, they're still a really good football team, right? However you want to form this, but if you're that dude way over here and the Lions are and always will be the same old Lions, okay, I don't really need to talk to you. And if you're the person who's just going to go by the last thing you saw, you might be feeling okay today. I just, full disclosure for those who don't know, as a regular job, I work in quality assurance. I work with statistical probability and what's the most likely thing to happen and how to evaluate like probability. That's what I do. And so sometimes it seeps into the podcast and I'll overkill you with data. Then that's just a part of the deal. What I do know is this. This team has set their record for the most points scored in the season. And if you're not a huge football fan, and maybe you're listening to this because you're just a family member or you're supporting me, thank you. I love you. That's a lot of points. That's a lot of points. This team is 7-0 on the road. They've won every road game this year. They got one more winnable road game next week in San Francisco. And I looked up another stat. 9 times in history, Super Bowl era, I don't want to say history, in the Super Bowl era, a team has won all their road games. And more than half of those teams win the Super Bowl. Now, that's not the best stat for that reason, but what that tells you is a team that wins all their road games is probably a really good football team. That's really what it's saying. They're probably one of the better teams in football. And the Lions are, in fact, the top-rated offense in the league. And when you excel on one side of the ball, especially in 2024, and it's the offense, you can win a lot of football games. And that's what we're watching. We're watching a team that's playing offensive football at an elite level. I mean, today was just a demo across the board. They ran well, even though one of their top backs is out. They threw short and intermediate well. They got deep. They ran trick plays. The offense, because if you remember last week against Buffalo, they scored 42 points. And they had those 2 empty possessions at the beginning of the game. The offense is scary, elite. That's where my confidence comes from. Someone asked me during the week, I said, I really think the Lions are going to win the Super Bowl. And I got a question. Hi, Deanna. Good to see you. Do I expect the Lions to go to the Super Bowl? The answer is an emphatic hell yeah. And I will spend the next 30 minutes giving you legitimate reasons and hell, illegitimate reasons. I know who I am. This thing is called cornbread and Kool-Aid because I'm not objective. I'm not biased. And so Deanna's been a fan a long time. And the question is legit. And I think she's starting to get there. And she just needs somebody to tell her, yeah, this is real. You're not dreaming. This isn't fake. This is real. They're that good. They're elite on one side of the ball. And they're going to get healthy and get better on the other side of the ball. I think they're going to improve on the other side of the ball. Right now, they are simply the best offense in football. They're the most elite offensive team in the league. And I think that I don't see any reason why that's going to change. Buffalo last week just simply outscored us. I know who you are, Deanna. I didn't forget. I got a great memory. I think that when you look at this team play, and I hear guys, and the narratives will happen, everybody's going to be okay now, a little more relaxed. But today's win wasn't about, we got to get a win over the Bears. It's big simply because it was the game they played today. And there's every analogy you want to use. Get the taste out of your mouth, remind yourself, whatever it is, right? I think you have to keep putting pressure on Philadelphia and Minnesota, and the Eagles lost. Minnesota we still control our own destiny, though. And that's the thing. But with Philly lost in late fashion against the Commanders in Washington, and Minnesota's playing right now. And like I said, I'll frequently break podcast protocol and check the score. So you have to forgive me for that. But big picture, 13-2, everything we want, everything they want. I'm one of those fans who uses the we as if I play. So get over that. Everything we want is still in front of us. Everything the Lions want to do. Number 1 seed, all games coming through Detroit. They got one road game in San Francisco. Come home, play Minnesota in what may or may not be a big game. We'll find out. If it is, guess what? We're ready. We're okay. Minnesota's not hanging 48 on us, right? And you can say, oh, they got a better defense. We're not going to score 42. I don't see why we won't score 31 or 34. We have the best offense in football. We are elite on one side of the ball. So I'm big picture. I'm not worried. Big picture. I'm not concerned at all. I wasn't that concerned last week. By the end of the podcast, I think my cousin Chuck chimed in, just one game. Maybe Stevie. Somebody chimed in and said, just one game. Just one game. And today they came out, took care of business. Exactly what I expected, exactly what I thought they would do. And I think we're back to where we were, right? So let's talk about the game itself, actually. So they played a relatively clean game. I think when I say clean, there were a couple of penalties, but nothing that was too costly. I think that they got off to a great start. I think they scored on their first 5 for sure, maybe first 6. I feel like it was field goal, touchdown, and touchdown, right? So they were just scoring every time they got the ball. And when that happens in a game, you wear down the opposition. And at some point they realize we can't stop them. It was what happened to us last week when Dan Campbell decided to kick the onside kick. He had resigned himself to the understanding that we couldn't stop Buffalo. And Kenny brings up a good point. We already beat Minnesota. There's no reason to be scared of Minnesota. We beat them. We beat them in Minnesota, and didn't play a great game that day. So if the Lions play the game they played today, they beat Minnesota. If they play the game they played last week against Buffalo, they beat Minnesota because Minnesota's not going to score the way Buffalo did. And people keep forgetting we hung 42 on Buffalo last week because we lost the game. People forget that. This offense is elite. It's scary. You saw the intensity early, and everybody was clicking. Like St. Brown just had what I call just a typical St. Brown game. I think he had 6 catches. What did he have? 6 catches? 6 catches, 170 yards and a touchdown. Just go to work, do your job type of game, right? Let me see. Yeah, 6 catches, 70 yards and a touchdown. He just makes big catches. He makes important catches. He's so consistent. He's got a bunch of records, and I should have had him ready. Records for the Lions, records for a player who's played 4 years. And there's some big names. He's on a list with names, St. Brown just catches the football, makes plays. If you need 12, he gets you 13. If you need 16, he gets you 18. It's just what he does. And he's a good dude in the room. He works his ass off. And that's why we extended him. And we've got him for another, 4 or 5. Which is awesome. I think it was really cool today to see how effective Jahmyr Gibbs can be. Here's the thing. Jahmyr Gibbs quietly is one of the most explosive players in the league, but we watch him in a tandem. So we don't, I can't wait for David Montgomery to come back. Don't take this the wrong way, because together it's frightening. Jahmyr Gibbs is, I'll let you guys tell me. Jahmyr Gibbs is special. And in a case where Montgomery can't play, you get 109 rushing and another 45 receiving. You get 27 touches for well over 150 total yards from scrimmage. That's called a feature back. That's called a superstar. And that's what Jahmyr Gibbs is. He's just, and sometimes he makes it look easy. He quietly might be one of the best backs in the league. And I think, Craig Reynolds came in, had some tough runs that reminded us of David Montgomery. And then they let Jameer Jefferson spell a little bit. I think those guys had probably 7 or 8 carries when I was going to say when the game was out of reach, but let's be honest, the game was out of reach from the opening kick. That is not meant to make my Bears friends feel bad. Bear fan friends feel bad. There was never really any doubt which team was better. There was never any real doubt which team was going to win this game. And that's kind of where we are now. We needed to get for lack of a better term, the stench of the Buffalo game off. And they went back to business. And we remember who they are. And J-Mo, I was mad at the time, right? I think I texted Art something like, what's it going to take for him to get it? And then, he gave me a J-Mo play to say, okay, I'll forget that because I'll make that trade. You can do the one dumb thing a day, the one dumb thing every game if you want to. If you go back and then do the other thing that you might be the only player on the field capable of doing, I'll take that trade off. Give me 68 or whatever that was, and you can go get a 15-yard penalty on a drive that would have penalty didn't cost us. But I really hope he doesn't one day, the thing that people say about Dan Campbell, do something stupid that hurts us. Because J-Mo's, from a talent standpoint, J-Mo's special. And the reality is there's nobody else on our roster, certainly, who can do what he does. There's a handful of dudes in the league that can do some of the things he does. And it probably is like, well, if you just look at his catches and his yards and his touchdowns, it could get by you because there is a value in J-Mo that on Wednesday in the team meeting, the other team's defense has to account for 9, right? They have to scheme in a way to account for 9. And he makes Laporta better. He makes ASB better. He makes Tim Patrick possible. J-Mo, just the presence of J-Mo, that J-Mo's on the field has an impact. So his talent, undeniable. I love the guy. I wish he would stop doing some of the childish, immature stuff. And it's managing your ego, managing your emotions, whatever it is. I need him to do less of that, less of that, more dancing end zone. That would I be. So then, the Bears contributed to the game, obviously with the turnovers early. They make mistakes. They commit penalties. They do the things that bad teams do. And I'm so much more familiar with being as a historical Lions fan. No, let me start over. Historically, as a Lions fan, I'm more familiar with being on the other side of that, watching my team jump off sides on 4th and 3 and give the other team a free first down. I don't know how that ever happens, but it happens. Historically, that's the Lions. Hand to the face penalty, give up a 3rd and 2. That's what the Lions used to do. And I see other teams doing it now. And the reality is that's why bad teams are bad, because they commit penalties. Some of those penalties are because they're beat on a play, so you got to hold, or you get beat on a route, so you got to commit pass interference. Some of it is discipline. You're just not doing your job. Just do your job. That's all it is. But I needed to acknowledge that we beat a bad football team today. It was 34-17. It wasn't nearly that close. And we beat a bad football team. That's cool. Art doesn't let me apologize for wins. So we're not apologizing. So now I got to get to the point of the podcast that there are many. Okay, so if you're not a Jared Goff guy, you can tune out because I'm about to do 3, 4, 5 minutes on my quarterback. Sorry, I've been holding off a lot the last few podcasts, not gushing about the guy. But I'm tired of it. I'm tired of it, right? So today, because what I think people miss, you look at the stats, that's pedestrian. That's my producer Mike's word. That's a pedestrian day. There is nothing pedestrian about that day. And I will say to you that through 15 games, I will give you 2 games. I'll give you Houston. Undeniable. Can't throw 5 picks. I'll give you another one of your choice. But in 13 of these, and it wasn't the loss to Tampa, because I think he put up ridiculous numbers in the loss to Tampa week 2. I feel like I could go through and say that was an average game. I know I could go through and look, but I'm not going to do it live. I'm sorry, 13 of 15 games, I will tell you Jared Goff has played MVP caliber football. There was the game where he was perfect, right? Today, 137 rating. They put him up on the graphic with 2 or 3 other guys for MVP. Josh Allen will probably win it. I don't really care. I'm almost certain Jared Goff doesn't care. But I don't understand sometimes when there are people who just plant their flag, develop their narrative, and they won't move. Despite data and evidence, they won't move. And you get people like Nick Wright who will go on national TV and call Jared Goff a civilian. And he meant it as an insult. He wasn't complimenting Jared Goff. He meant it as an insult. He said that on purpose. And it didn't make me like, oh man, I am unapologetically a Jared Goff guy. The jersey's right there. I don't hide it. Every week you see me, 16s over my shoulder, next to the greatest. And everybody knows how I feel about Muhammad Ali. That I would put Jared Goff's jersey in the frame with Muhammad Ali, my son's artwork, and a WWE Lions belt tells you, and a skyline of Detroit tells you how I feel about Jared Goff. I don't apologize for that. But now I feel like, why am I the only one? And I'm not. People are chanting Jared Goff at Soldier Field today. So there are other people that know it. But why won't the national media? Why do the guys on the 4-letter in particular, the 4-letter devil, why is it so hard? And I think I know. And you guys know who I am if you've listened to this. But if you haven't, there are people in my life I'm super close to. Oh, I'm sorry. This is an interactive podcast. If you type in something, I might say something. So Andy, and I like Andy. I think quietly Andy and I are friends, even though we've never met. I think Andy loves Jared Goff as much as I do, but I don't think he wants to admit it. But for whatever reason, and he might just be yanking my chain, Andy doesn't seem to love it when I go on one of my Jared Goff tirades, which is one of the reasons I do it, because I knew Andy was here. So, but in fairness, I warned Andy that I was about to do it. He could have went and made a cup of coffee and he wouldn't have had to hear it. But quietly, I think Andy loves Jared Goff as much as I do. So here's my thing. I think I know what it is. And if you know me, you know this podcast. The person I talk about more than anybody is my brother, Kenny. And Kenny has this thing, and a lot of people have it, and I don't. There is this fascination with mobile quarterbacks, like quarterbacks that can run. I've never had it. I've always had this flow chart in my head about the qualities of a quarterback that I think make them great. And so when I went back and I did the data on Super Bowls, it was about the guys that go to Super Bowls and win Super Bowls. And so I pulled out a couple of anomalies. Steve Young flies right in the face of my opinion. And that's about it. That's about it. Patrick Mahomes is not a running quarterback. He's mobile. He can scramble. He's not a running quarterback. Aaron Rodgers only has one Super Bowl, not a running quarterback. Bradshaw at 4, not a running quarterback. Staubach, Aikman, Marino. Marino didn't win. But as I was going down the list of these guys, like Troy Aikman's not mobile. But he's got like 3 rings. Tom Brady, what's the opposite of mobile? I know it's immobile. If you had a picture in a dictionary and it says opposite of mobile quarterback, Tom Brady's picture's there. And he's got a handful of rings. So this fascination that somehow mobility equals wins has always escaped me. And there's people in the comments now. And I think Josh Allen is a good player, Andy. He doesn't have a Super Bowl ring yet. I'm talking about winning. I don't. My love for Jared Goff isn't just because he's a nice guy, which he is. Isn't just because he's funny and clever, which if you hear him on the radio, he is. It's not because of the things he does in the community, which he does a lot. Jared Goff does the number one thing I want my quarterback to do. The number one thing I need my quarterback to do. Win football games. That's your job. Win football games. Now, if you want to break down the skills, I've done this, but I'll do it again. Because, I don't know, it's my podcast. I can do what I want. And Andy notes Goff is not mobile. Right. That's the point. But he's 35-10 in his last 45 football games. How come that doesn't matter? When he goes to the line of scrimmage, and I've done this, I rank him. Pre-snap reads. He breaks the huddle. They've called 2 plays. He walks up. He evaluates. He points at a guy. He does all that stuff. That is him processing data. That's him in his mind saying, that's the coverage. I saw it on film Tuesday in the meeting. I know what they're going to do. And then he'll go kill, 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 meaning because of what they're set up to do, the play we were going to run isn't going to work. Let's do something else. That's up here. That's not about his feet or his legs. And Andy's doing the thing that everybody does. He's got a great O-line. Somebody's going to chime in and say it's all Ben Johnson and the play calling. And I don't get that. I never get it. It's always something else. It's the receivers. It's the O-line. It's the running game. It's the play caller. It's always some other reason other than our quarterback is great. I'm done with good. I'm done apologizing. Jared Goff's great right now. 2024, he's one of the best 5 quarterbacks in the league. Period. Play action, he's got the best numbers of anybody. Steamrolling toward a 4,000-yard season. He's got 30-something touchdowns. It's ridiculous that people can't just say, Jared Goff's a great quarterback. So I don't care about the MVP, and Jared Goff doesn't either. It's not about he's got to win. He might. If Goff or Lamar have a bad game, and Goff does what he did last week and this week 2 more times, he's got a case. I started this off with there's a case to be made that Jared Goff could be the MVP because he's the quarterback of what will likely be, and Kenny gets credit, a 15-2 football team. He will be the starting quarterback of a 15-2 football team with well over 4,000 yards, nearly 40 touchdowns, completion percentage, highest in the league, quarterback rating, highest in the league. I think he's 2nd or 3rd in touchdowns. I don't know. He can't run, though. He can't run. And that's what it is. They'll talk about Lamar. They'll mention his rushing touchdowns. They'll talk about Josh Allen. They'll mention his rushing yards. And I just don't know when running the ball makes you a great quarterback over winning football games, completion percentage, touchdowns. His completion percentage could be better, except he's super smart and he knows when to throw the ball away. Right? He makes such good decisions. And if you take out Houston, I challenge you to tell me a game where he wasn't somewhere between very good and exceptional. Some of those games are off the charts good. He's doing things in the last 45 games that are historic. I just don't get it. This is me saying I'm confused. And there's people who are in it. I never played. I'm just telling you what I see. I've never played in the NFL or in any league. I played one play of football in middle school, and they lined me up at tight end. I went over the middle. I got hit in the chest, and I got up and walked out and said, I got to go study. Yeah, that wasn't me. That wasn't me. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. But I know what I see, and I'm telling you stats. This isn't my opinion. I'm telling you his completion percentage is number 1 in the league. I'm telling you the yards he has. I come to this podcast with stats, not feelings, right? That's not what I do. I know what I see and I hear them. I don't really watch the 4-letter anymore, but I listen to radio, local and national, and they laud Lamar and they laud Josh Allen, 2 guys who've never won a Super Bowl. Jared's been the one. He hasn't won one either. But when you put the numbers up there, when you look at it, he gets called a civilian. His numbers are comparable to Patrick Mahomes. His quarterback numbers, not his running game, his rushing numbers are comparable to Mahomes. And so the only thing I can figure out is it's that he's not mobile. And there's some obsession with mobile quarterbacks, although every piece of data I've looked up flies in the face of mobility getting rings. Some of the most immobile guys. Now, Elway, I might give you Elway. I forgot Elway. I'll give you Steve Young for sure, and I might give you Elway. But I could match that with statues like Brady and Aikman and Peyton Manning. I don't know. So my brother just reminded me, which this is crazy. There is something called street football. Kids used to play in the streets. And this is not me. If you can see the comments, my brother is acknowledging I was a quarterback. I was the quarterback, and I was good. I was good. So, but that is what it is. It has nothing to do with my opinion of Jared Goff. I've watched Jared Goff play every play since he was a Detroit Lion. Early on, he had no talent. There were bad teams, and he was still putting up decent numbers. When he got talent, and Andy's not wrong, the offensive line is top 5 in the league. He's an elite level offensive line. And it's certainly not all Goff. Ben Johnson is a great play caller. But if there's a bus going down the street and it gets from where it left to its destination, you don't give the passengers credit. You don't say, oh, it's just the passengers. That dude's sitting in the back. Somebody's steering the bus. Somebody is pressing the gas and the brake when needed. Somebody's steering the bus. And with every other team, they will give the bus driver credit for how quickly he got them to the school, getting all the kids home safely. They credit the bus driver. For whatever reason, the Detroit Lion bus, everybody else gets credit. The driver gets no credit. So it's absolutely not all Goff. But I don't know why it's so hard. If you want to go down the list of why is the Detroit Lions offense elite, I don't know how you get past number 2 or number 3 and not mention number 16's name. Right? You're damn right. I love my bus driver, Andy. Okay, I'm done. I did way too much time on that. I was trying to make a point that I just don't understand why Goff can't get the love I think he deserves. And I believe it's just that he's not mobile. And that doesn't make sense to me. And I struggle when it doesn't make sense. I'm going to move on. Let's get to some questions. I don't. So, I mean, that throw to J-Mo, those of you who say he doesn't have an arm, I'll send you the link to the throw to J-Mo. If you see a better throw in the league this year, show it to me. You're not going to see many throws that good. And the pocket was collapsing, for the record. But it was a play action, and it was dead on. J-Mo didn't have to break stride. That's the bus driver getting the kids to school. J-Mo's one of the kids. The bus driver got him to school, Andy. The bus driver got him to school. You can. So as far as the game, I think that I give Ben Johnson credit because I almost left the game and didn't talk about the greatest trick play of all time. I would love comments on this play. Was there anybody who wasn't fooled? I mean, it's the Oscar goes to type of stuff because Gibbs sold the fall. I didn't know why was Goff stumbling and Gibbs were falling when they never touched each other. But in the moment, they got me. I'm not even gonna lie. I'll give Ben Johnson big time kudos or a bow like Karate Kid, whatever. That was sick. That was sick because I bought it. I bought it hook, line, and sinker. Clearly the Bears did because if you listen to the broadcast, they're yelling, fumble, fumble, fumble. It's like he never fumbled. He was never in danger of falling, right? I'm jokingly saying the greatest trick play ever. I mean, it's up there, though. That whole Music City Miracle, if you're not old enough, were they in Tennessee or still in Houston? I don't know. The Oilers / Titans pulled off a game-winning play years ago. Might have been 15, 20 years ago. That was a great trick play. This one was creative in its design. The acting job was perfect, and they executed it to perfection for a touchdown. So I got to give that one. Some props. I think it fooled everybody. Art said it's called Stumble Bum. Oh, now it's definitely the best play. If that's really the name of it, Stumble Bum, then it's the because if you're not from England, no, never mind. I'm not going to do the British definition of bum. Stumble Bum is a cool name. Yeah, I'm going with one of the greatest trick plays ever in design and in execution. It's fantastic. So as far as today, I still believe this team is capable of anything. No, I think this team is capable of the thing. Anything doesn't matter. There's only one thing anybody listening to this podcast cares about. And to answer your question, Deanna, I don't know how you thought I forgot who you were. That's crazy. To answer your question, Deanna, yes, the Lions are capable of winning the Super Bowl. Going for sure, because with Philly's loss, the 1 seed was always critical to me. I don't really care about Minnesota. We get to play them and handle that. The 1 seed was huge. And if everybody's got to come through Detroit, I'm not worried about weather. I'm not worried about anything. The crowd is crazy. More than they can do anything, they can do the thing. And I'm enjoying the journey. I do this speech every week. I'm enjoying the ride. I'm enjoying the journey. They're fun to watch. And when we get there, we'll do that celebration. I don't need to jump ahead. All right, let's do the questions. Okay. Oh, does this win calm the fears? No, probably not. I think if you had fears, I don't think I had fears. I think a bunch of people on this podcast that I know didn't have real fears. But if you're the kind of person who had fears after last week, you probably will find a new reason this week to still be fearful. You'll say they didn't get any pass pressure. They didn't have any sacks. You'll bring up JMO and say he's going to cost us. You'll talk about something, giving up some garbage points to the Bears. You'll find something if that's who you are. More pragmatic people are probably going to say it was just the Bears. Don't overreact. Don't overvalue the win. That's what your favorite guy in the afternoon on the radio is going to say. Oh, they just beat the Bears. They're going to do that thing because that's what they do. They'll find a reason to dampen it. They beat the Bears today because they played the Bears today. I'm not trying to be cute. That's who they played. So that's who they beat. But they'll give you that you shouldn't be happy about going in and beating a bad team the way you should. They might say you should have won by 30. You left points on the field. Pragmatic people might say that. They're going to tell you, even though Philly lost, you still should be worried. You still got Minnesota lurking. Maybe you need to worry about Tampa, whose offense is pretty good. So there are pragmatic folks that are going to do that kind of stuff, and you just beat up on the Bears. That's not going to prepare you for the playoffs. And then there's people like me, cornbread eaters, Kool-Aid drinkers like me. I'm an optimist. I'm an optimist in life. I'm an optimist by nature. That's who I am, right? So predictably, I'm going to say this is exactly what they needed. Just an outside game, go execute, answer any questions like that. Go remind everybody that you can run well, you can pass short well, you can pass deep well. And when you want, you can hang 37, you can hang 42 on just about any team in the league. That's the reality. Just to remind everybody, we know when it's time to go to work, we just go to work and do the work. Remind everybody, we're 12-2. We're 12-2 for a reason. You can come up with whatever cute little thing you want, but we're 12-2. And you know what that means? It means we're one of the best football teams in the league. That's just what it means. When you execute at a high level, you can beat anybody anywhere. And beating a team by 17 on the road, even if it's the Bears, is not easy. It's not simple. You have to do what you do. You have to execute your game. You have to be smart and efficient. And that's what they were. Yeah. So last week was people who've been scarred for years, for people who want to remind you of something 15 or 20 years ago. And that's what they do. But my view, the optimist view, the cornbread and Kool-Aid view has a couple easy points. One, we hung 42 on Buffalo last week. Don't forget, in a loss, we scored 42 points. We had those 2 empty possessions early in the game, and then we were elite offensively for the rest of the game. And by the way, Buffalo's the number 2 offense in the league, so they're capable of hanging 48 on somebody. But you know what? If we have to play Buffalo again, that game is in New Orleans, and I don't care. Because if we get there, I know we got a shot. And the stadium in New Orleans is dome, and I know what this offense can do. So if you're telling me, oh, you got to be worried about Buffalo, you're telling me I got to be worried about our Super Bowl opponent? Okay, check, please. I'll take that. Sure. There's very few teams in this league, including the Chiefs, who I don't think have scored 30 points in some ridiculous amount of time. The Chiefs are not a prolific offense. Buffalo beat the Chiefs for that reason. The Chiefs struggle to score. And their defense is good, but there's no reason we can't hang 35 on the Chiefs. Chiefs don't worry me either. If you want to stick to that, they're the 3-time Super Bowl, 2-time Super Bowl champs, whatever. Nobody scares me. I'm not scared of Buffalo after last week because I know the Lions can play better. I'm not scared of the Chiefs. I'm not scared of the Ravens. I don't. So there are people who had fears. They still have fears. People like me who never were fearful. And by the end of last week's podcast, I was fine, right? We're not going to see another offense like that. Philly's offense is good, but it's not that. And by the way, their defensive guys that are going to come back, right? We got Iffy back today. I think it made a difference. Anzalone is going to be back. Carlton Davis will probably be back for the playoffs, especially if we get the 1 seed and we get an extra week. And some of these new guys will get better. I saw Zeke Turner make a mistake today that cost us a touchdown. He'll get better. And it's just reading and playing and reps. Right? But if you tell me I'm going to get Anzalone back, I'm going to get Carlton Davis back. Okay. And then in the Super Bowl, might be a pipe dream. I don't believe it. Get Hutch back. Okay. But Zadarius Smith's going to keep playing better. And Today they had Pascal, they had Levi, they had a good complement of guys, Reader up front. That group will be fine. That group will be fine. I'm just not worried because guys will come back. And the most important reason I wouldn't worry to finish this question, I think that organizationally, the culture, I think the leadership, like Brad and Dan, the coaching staff, AG, Ben Johnson, the Brunels and Kelvin Shepherds and the Dave Phipps of the world, and the players on that team, St. Brown, Sewell, Gibbs, the players, and sorry, Andy, the quarterback. Wrong shoulder because my screen is reversed. The quarterback. They're built for this. That's not just a cute little catchphrase. They're built for this. Whatever it takes, whatever's in front of them, wherever they have to go play, make it a night game, make it a Sunday game, make it a Thursday game, play at noon, play at 7:30, don't give a damn. They can be anybody, anywhere. They're built for this. So I said all that other stuff. Short answer is simple. They're built for this. Great point, Kenny. Rumors about Calais Campbell. If Calais Campbell, that's just another dude that can help, right? They're built for this. That's my short answer. All right, next question. As sharp as they look today, do you believe they needed that loss to Buffalo? I feel like it's kind of the same. Needed? No. I don't generally believe you need a loss, but I think what you're kind of leaning towards is, did they need to be reminded of what it tasted like to lose? Did they need to refocus and get sharp? Maybe. They looked really sharp today. Even with the field goals, they looked sharp. And I feel like there was a definite refocus. And the Bears might have just got a bad draw. Truth is, somebody was getting their ass whooped today. The Bears just happened to be the team on the schedule. I feel like that's what it was. I feel like the Bears happened to be on the schedule. Somebody, there's a degree of smoke, right? And the Bears were going to get all of it. Whoever lined up across the Lions today, were going to take one. They were going to take one. And I don't know if it mattered. I think the turnovers and penalties helped by the Bears. But somebody had to get that smoke today. And the Bears just happened to be the team that was there. And maybe you're suggesting that last week they got complacent. Is complacency a real thing? Maybe. If you win 11 in a row, I just think that week in and week out, day in, day out in practice, Dan Campbell doesn't get down like that. They work hard. They try and focus. I don't think you get to this level, the NFL, as an elite football player, if you have the ability to turn it off, right? I think these guys are elite. They're focused. I don't believe in complacency. Your edge could get softened after winning 11 in a row. I don't think it's a deal where it's like, oh, we can't be. I don't think they thought that. I was saying that kind of dumb shit, but I don't think they were saying it. But it could happen. But if that's what it took, I said at the end of the game, at the end of the podcast last week, that Chicago was a get-right game. That's what a get-right game looks like, is what we watched a little while ago. And next week, the only caveat being the weather, some ridiculous wind, rain combination. And even then, that affects the other team as well. So I would fully expect the Lions to still dominate, right? I think today was, I will quote the late, great Denny Green. Yeah, they are who we thought they were. They are who we thought they were. Not who local and national media tried to trick us into believing for the last week. They are who we thought they were. They're a dominant offensive team. They're good enough on defense. They're well coached. And there are no variables that stop them. Weather, time, road, home, doesn't matter. Just doesn't matter. If we need to hang 42 on you, we will. And if you're good enough to put 48, you get the win. Shake Buffalo's hand and say, see you in New Orleans. I've thought about that game all week. It just wasn't that bad a game. We played another elite offense with a depleted defense, and we put up 42, a number that wins most games, right? That's all that was. They are who we thought they were. That's really it. That's really it. You know, and even though it was against the Bears and people are going to try and dampen it, the reality is this: the offense is still elite. And everything that they want to do, that offense gives them a chance to do it. Whatever it was at the beginning of the year, we talked about. When Kenny said 15-2, we talked about 1 seed, win the division, 1 seed, get the bye week, home playoff. NFC championship game is in downtown Detroit. Go to the Super Bowl. All that's right there. It's all right there. So, yeah. They looked sharp today. I don't know if it was because of the Buffalo loss or if because it was the Bears, it would have been that way anyway. But it doesn't matter. The loss happened. We move on. All right, one more. Should there be any concern about putting teams away? That's a legit question. So somebody just chimed in. I don't really know who he is, making a reference to the quarterback. I'm going to assume he, A, joined the podcast late, did not hear my 8 minutes on Jared Goff, or B, is doing what they call trolling, right? But if he's trolling and oh wait, I'm sorry, I misunderstood y'all. He's a Bears fan. So when he talked about our quarterback, he meant the Bears quarterback, and then he complimented Goff. I think your quarterback plays behind a horrible offensive line. I think he was not used right. I'm talking about Caleb Williams. I think he's talented, and when there's more talent around him, he will be better. I think there's a lot of talent, and it's way too early to bail on him. That's my short answer to the interactive question from the Ghost of Judah tribe. Last question here. Should there be any concerns about putting teams away? So, yeah, at some point, I think I sent Art a text, and maybe Kenny, I foot firmly on their neck, probably 20-0. And I was like, stomp them out. Stomp them out. I want to see more of that. We've seen it. We saw it in Jacksonville. We saw it against Tennessee. We saw it against Dallas. So we know they're capable of it. I think if the defense doesn't make one assignment mistake that resulted in a touchdown, no, 2. Zeke Turner made an assignment mistake on the Cole Kmet touchdown, and Terrion Arnold, Kenny's favorite corner, I believe, had an assignment mistake on the Keenan Allen touchdown. I think it was Keenan Allen. So I have to look at it holistically and say, but for 2 simple mistakes by a rookie and a free agent off the street, I don't know that the Bears score more than 6 points, maybe 10. So if that game is 37-6, did we stomp them out? I go back to the same thing. There was no point in the game where I really thought the Bears were going to win, that the Bears were going to be competitive from almost the opening kickoff. After they went 3 and out and we drove right down the field, even though we only got a field goal, I said, okay, somebody was going to get an ass whooping today, and the Bears just happened to be on the schedule, right? I think that, no reasonable fan watching this game ever thought the Bears are in it. The Bears might win. And I think football and in life, people can be prone to what I call sort of limited data opinion forming. You could look at Buffalo last week and say, sky is falling. We're in trouble. That's who the Lions are. And people do it in life. People make a big mistake, use bad judgment, make a bad decision. I've done it. Horrible mistake. And you can let it, or other people or yourself, say that's who you are. You're a horrible person because of that one thing you did. And you can forget about the totality of your life and all the stuff you've done that's good and say, wait, there's a possibility that I'm a good person who made a mistake. I'm a good person who has a problem, who used bad judgment, whatever it is. And that's easily transferable to football, because what you should do is say, okay, I got to just put my head on straight, get help if I need it, start making good decisions, and be a better person. It is no different in football. You lose that game to Buffalo, they could have wallowed. They could have let the media and people, oh, you suck, you gave up 48 points to Buffalo. Or you go back to practice. You have a good day of practice. You have a good rep, and then you have another good rep, and you have a good day, and you have a good week, and you go to Chicago, and you play well, and you win. And then you take the totality, and you go, oh, wait, we're 12-2. We don't suck because we lost one game to Buffalo. That doesn't define us. Just like in life, don't let your worst mistake, don't let your worst misjudgment, whatever you did, don't let it define you. And in football, that's the culture I talk about. I think that's the Lions culture. They can have a bad quarter, a bad half. Goff can throw 5 picks in Houston and come back and not care. That's not who I am. That's what happened that day. I can be better. So just try and be better. And I think that's the mentality of this football team. And so if there's a moment, if they somehow lose to Minnesota and drop to the 5 seed, I don't give a damn. I still think they'll win the Super Bowl because I think they can go anywhere and win. I don't expect that to happen, right? But the reality is I'm not worried about it. And after they win in San Francisco next week, if Minnesota does what they're supposed to do leading up to that week, your favorite radio guy is going to give you 100 reasons why the Lions are going to lose to Minnesota. He is. He's going to ignore their record. He's going to ignore their elite offense. He's going to ignore the guys coming back, and he's going to tell you, you need to be worried. Why? Because he wants you to call into the radio show. He probably doesn't even believe it. But there are people who do that. They will judge you in life that way. They will judge the football team that way. I am not. I'm not. Buffalo didn't bother me that much, especially by the time we were finished with the podcast. I was over Buffalo. You have to have that mentality. And I think this football team has it. And because of that, I'm not concerned at all. Dan Campbell said on the radio earlier this week, we might win by 1. We could win by 31. Doesn't matter to me. I'm going to smile either way. That's how they roll. That's how they get down. So I have no concerns about them not putting teams away. I don't care how they win. But it's an odd question today because I don't think there was ever a moment in that game where I felt like they weren't going to win. The reason I think they're going to win, they're going to go to the Super Bowl is because of the mentality I just described. And whatever the narrative is in the national or local media, whatever, still about the injuries and, how are they going to, they probably will talk down Philly. And if Minnesota loses, they might change the whole narrative and say, okay, it's going to be tough for them to catch Detroit. I don't know if it'll be, if we win in San Francisco, we might clinch. And if that happens, now if the Minnesota game doesn't matter, you're telling me I get to give guys 2 weeks off? Okay. Minnesota better do what they need to do. Because if they lose in Seattle and that game doesn't matter because of tiebreakers and stuff like that, yeah, because what the Lions did today, as I close, what they really did today was reminded everybody, weather doesn't matter. It was cold. The other team doesn't matter. What happened last week doesn't matter. And if you want to define us by our worst moment this year, but again, in life, there are people who are going to remember the worst thing you ever did, and that's what they're going to talk about, and they're going to remind you. And they're going to want you to live in that moment. This team is not going to do that. This team was over Buffalo a week ago. They're clearly over it now. It's on to San Francisco. I think that you're going to see another workmanlike performance. You're going to probably see, my cousin Chuck said, cars will be flipped February 9th. And if you're not from, well, they do it everywhere. There probably will be cars flipped. There probably will be cars flipped February 9th. I feel like there's nothing that happened against Buffalo last week, nothing that happened today, certainly, that has me convinced that the Lions can, this is it. This is it, guys. We're experiencing it. My feeling is just enjoy San Francisco. Enjoy the Minnesota game. I don't think either one of them matters. If somehow Minnesota does something and I don't even care. That's how confident. Would I prefer that everybody has to come to Detroit? Yeah. Honestly, I don't even think it matters. They beat Minnesota in Minnesota already. They beat Green Bay in Green Bay. They beat Dallas in Dallas. They beat everybody everywhere. The 2 losses were home losses. For the record, every time they go on the road and 10,000 fans follow them, they win. They win. So I'm not worried at all about any of that. I do not care about what the local and national media says. Today, they simply reminded us everything they want to do, they can do. They go out, they execute. Whoever's in front of them has got to get the smoke. Sorry. And that's what they did. So they're still in control of their destiny. Take care of business in San Francisco. Force Minnesota to figure it out today because was that it? No, he dropped it. Told you I'd peek at the game. 17-14, I think. Possibly 17-17. Hold on. Horrible podcasting etiquette, but hold on a second. We got a field goal. It's good. Tie game just in the second half. 10.5 left. 17-17. So Minnesota's got work to do right now. And then they play Green Bay next week, a team that people are still thinking is really good, even though we beat them twice. Some idiot on the national media said, is Green Bay the biggest threat to Philly? and I'm stealing this from the local. They talked about it. I don't understand any of that. And I know I'm going long, you guys. Is Green Bay the biggest threat to Philly? Lions are number 1 seed. They beat Green Bay twice. That was so odd, but that's how they treat us. So I'm not gonna worry about it. Go to San Francisco, handle your business. Let Week 18 take care of itself. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Like I said, a thumbs up, a heart, all that stuff is cool. I love it, and I appreciate it. I'm going to wrap. Wait, I got one more comment. Hold on. I like to be interactive. If you will take the time to write something in. So apparently we've been instructed to not flip cars February 9th, but I'm going to tell my cousin Stevie, you can go to hell with that. If the Lions win the Super Bowl, there will be flipping of cars, and I have no shame in it. So if you like it, I appreciate it. Hearts, thumbs up, whatever you do, subscribe, follow. I'm kind of old. I don't know how all this works. I just enjoy doing the podcast, and I appreciate you listening. So next week is, I think it's Monday night. We Monday night. Yeah. So hopefully y'all will join me. I'll be on. It'll be midnight, but I'll be on next Monday night after San Francisco, irrespective of what Minnesota does today. We will need to go take care of business in San Francisco. So I will talk to you next Monday night. Everybody have a good rest of your night. We got another win, 13-2. Enjoy the ride because it's special. We're going to be talking about this season a lot. So don't forget to enjoy it while it's happening, instead of waiting till afterwards. So, all right, everybody have a good night. Thanks. Appreciate you.